Hey, 8th graders, welcome to another video tutorial. Today's topic for this lesson is special angles. We're going to be talking about complementary angles, supplementary angles. So get out your pencil and get out your composition book and let's go. All right. Okay. So, we're going to be just talking about complementary and supplementary angles. Not too difficult of a topic. So I want you guys to take notes. Anytime you see these red stars, you know to take notes. So the first thing is complementary angles. What are they? They're any two angles whose sum equals 90 degrees. And matter of fact, it doesn't have to be any two. It could be three angles whose sum is 90 degrees. It could be four, but any two angles. So here you notice you've got this angle plus this angle, and together they equal 90 degrees. Complementary angles. Two angles whose sum is 90 degrees. Supplementary angles, well, two angles or more whose sum is 180 degrees. So we talked about on a straight line, here's a straight line, the total from here to here is 180 degrees. That measurement's 180. So these two angles are supplementary because this angle plus this angle together is going to give you 180. So what's important to know about this is if I tell you this angle is 70 degrees, then you should know this angle is 110 because 110 plus 70 gives you 180, okay? Supplementary angles, two angles whose 180 degrees, two angles whose sum equals 180 degrees, and then complementary angles, two angles or more whose sum is 90 degrees, okay. And then the last thing is vertical angles. Well, they're any two angles that intersect at a common point. Any two angles that intersect at a common point. And when you have vertical angles, you have adjacent angles. This angle and this angle, they're adjacent because they share a common side. We learned that in the last video tutorial about adjacent angles. And you also have adjacent angles here. You have this angle and this angle, they're adjacent because they share a common side. But the other thing to mention though is vertical angles, the opposite side of that, of where those angles intersect are congruent. What do I mean by that? If I use a protractor and I measure this angle, and I say, let's just estimate, I say this is 40 degrees. That means this angle over here has got to be 40 degrees. It's going to be. It's going to this angle and this angle are equal, or another word for that would be congruent. Likewise, if I say this angle here is, let me make a darker color, 140 degrees, that means this angle is 140 degrees. So when you have two lines that intersect, so if I draw two lines here, this one and this one, doesn't matter where I put it, okay? This angle is going to equal that angle. Those two angles are going to be congruent, identical. Likewise, this angle and this angle are going to be congruent. That's what happens when lines intersect at a common point. The opposite angles equal each other. The other thing you got to take notes on is about special angles. Whenever you have two lines to intersect to form four congruent angles, okay, so these are vertical angles, right? Because they intersect at a common point. But notice that these lines, when they intersect, they have four congruent angles. What does that mean? I have a 90-degree angle, which means I have a 90-degree angle. That means over here I have a 90-degree angle, right? Opposites. But that also means, well, 90 plus what is 180? Well, that means that's 90 and that's 90. So anyway, when you have two lines that intersect to form four congruent angles, which means 90-degree angles, you have what's called perpendicular lines. These are perpendicular lines. They form right angles. This is a right angle. This is a right angle. This is a right angle. Oh, and another thing I forgot to mention in the last slide is congruent angles. They are the same measurement, another word for equal, and the symbol looks like that. So here and then wave. That's the congruent symbol. Okay, so press pause, take notes on this slide. And so all I want you to do now is just answer some of these questions. So press pause, and or don't press pause yet, but in this, I have this diagram labeled, and it says up here, line segment GA is perpendicular to the line segment EB. So I'm saying that this line segment and this line segment, they're perpendicular. And you know that by that right angle, by that one right angle. So based on that information, I want you to answer these questions. identify a right angle, identify two angles that are complementary, and identify two angles that are congruent. Okay? Press pause and do that. And then the next slide, I tell you that these two line segments form vertical angles. They intersect at a point. And I tell you that this angle, BDC, is 160. BDC is 160. Based on that, you will be able to answer these other three angles based on that information. And press pause and do that. And then the next thing is the math wizard question. Kind of a little difficult question, maybe. No, not for you. Okay. So anyway, I say this, angle GHC is 37 degrees. GHC is 37 degrees. Based on that, I should be able to figure out what angle EHR is. Based on that information and what I have learned about complementary angles, vertical angles, supplementary angles, and all that stuff. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed today's video tutorial. Answer those questions. We'll discuss it when I see you next. I think that's it. Have a great day, 8th graders.